Hello, my name is Matthias. Welcome to the FPL Scope and the FPL eye test for Game Week 21. Game Week 21 has been a pretty long and exhausting game week for a lot of people, I guess. It has stretched over 2 weeks, so we've had a lot of matches and haven't been able to talk about any of them so far. So yeah, I'm going to go through each and every game from Game Week 21 in this video over the 2 weekends. And we start off with Burnley against Luton, which feels like an eternity ago. But yeah, that was... for FPL purposes, not the most interesting match. Both teams have very few FPL options. Luton have a couple. Alfie Doughty, for example, is one of them, and he provided an assist as the final goal of the game for Luton, getting the draw against Burnley after Burnley took the lead. I should also just a quick mention for Odebear at Burnley as well. Burnley have struggled a bit. Lyle Foster has been out for a couple matches throughout the season. They obviously now without Koleosho as well, who's out for the rest of the season, I think. They're just struggling with their best players being out and stuff. But Odebear has been a really nice, ray of light for Burnley, and had the assist for Amdouni on the opening goal for Burnley. But then Burnley were not going to bring home all 3 points because Luton managed to score at the end. Alfie Doughty, like I mentioned, put a cross into the box, and Carlton Morris scored a pretty controversial goal. If you can remember back to that game, because I think it was the Luton goalkeeper who was basically just hindered when he was going to go out to, or not the Luton goalkeeper, Trafford, the Burnley goalkeeper, was hindered when he was trying to go out to collect the ball. And it probably should have been a free kick for Burnley, and that led to Vincent Kompany being pretty miserable after the match, and in the post-match press conference, he basically just laid out some really main reasons that VAR should have stepped in and probably fixed that game. But yeah, when it comes to FPL options, like I said, Doughty is the one who gained the points from that. Another assist from him. He had 2 assists against Chelsea not too long ago. He's had a couple clean sheets as well here and there. He's actually a pretty decent option, especially if Luton play in Game Week 29 as well. They will blank now in Game Week 26 though, because that Chelsea, or assuming Liverpool go through, which is going to be happening tomorrow as of this recording, Luton will blank in Game Week 26 at least. So Doughty maybe would have been a nice option usually, but without him playing in Game Week 26, when we already have Chelsea players and Spurs players and Liverpool players losing out that game week, maybe not the best option. But yeah, in general, I would just stay away from these 2 teams. And the biggest talking point of this match was the VAR decision, or the non-VAR decision towards the end of the match, where they really should have stepped in and disallowed that goal for Luton. Chelsea-Fulham was quite more significant when it comes to FPL, because Cole Palmer was one of the most highly captained players in this game week. I captained him personally as well, and I was happy to see him get a penalty. Sterling, as always, gets the penalty. A lot of people are saying, Palmer got lucky, got a penalty, and so on and such, but I think it's not really that surprising to see Sterling win a penalty against Fulham, who are the team that concede the most penalties, and with the referee that awards the most penalties in the same game. That was some of the reasoning that I had before the game week for choosing Palmer, because I thought the likelihood of a penalty was pretty high, and I also thought Palmer could play as the striker, as he has been doing, or that he did in the cup. Obviously, Armando Broja started this game as a striker for Chelsea, but when he was subbed off after like 70 minutes, Palmer went up front, and he had a lot of big chances like he had in the cup previously. So I think that's something to watch. Palmer can play up front now with Nicholas Jackson out for African Cup of Nations, and also with Nkunku out injured. Palmer could play as a striker, and that will help him even more as an FPL prospect, as if he needed any more help. So Palmer is still a fantastic option. He got 10 points, scored the penalty. Could have had another goal towards the end of the match as well, but in the end, Chelsea ended up with a 1-0 win. When it comes to defensive options, Gusto was really lucky not to be sent off. Again, talking about VAR, they probably should have stepped in here and given Gusto a red card. It was a pretty nasty challenge from Gusto, and he probably should have been sent off. And I say that as someone that has Gusto in his team and got 5 points from him from this game. I felt pretty lucky about those 5 points because, he probably should have been sent off. And Chelsea were kind of lucky not to concede, but at the same time, if you look at the expected goals, not too much from Fulham, but I think especially in the first half, they had a pretty good chance where they could have scored. But Petkovic in goal for Chelsea has been really good, and I wonder if he's going to start as the goalkeeper still when Sanchez is back from injury as well, because I think Petkovic has looked really good so far and hasn't really done anything to lose his place. So I think he might be a decent option going forward into the season, but I think he's also 4.5. I don't think he's 4.0 like many other backup goalkeepers. So yeah, Chelsea in general, not the best fixtures. They blank in 26. Palmer obviously is a major candidate for Chelsea players. I would keep Palmer for the rest of the season, even through the blanks and stuff. And then Gusto is someone that I have for a cheap price, but he's also someone that I'm looking to offload when we come to game week 26 when they blank. So yeah, not too many options from Chelsea, but Palmer is still a fantastic player who I think you should start in pretty much every game. He has a tough away fixture now against Liverpool. I still think he can do the goods, even though Liverpool have looked really good lately, as we'll get to talk about in this video pretty soon. Fulham, they are looking better with Raul Jimenez up front. They actually, like I said, could have scored in this match. As I've written in the notes as well, unlucky not to score. Had a couple decent chances, but it just wasn't meant to be in this game, and they didn't manage to get a point or a goal or anything from this game. But I think away to Chelsea is a tough game. It's a derby as well, so yeah, I think Fulham are a bit better with Jimenez back, so he is someone that you could consider if you need a cheap striker. There are a couple of cheap strikers you can consider, actually. You have Chris Wood for Nottingham Forest, who's also looking really good lately. You have Joe Pedro for a pretty cheap price still. Cunha is pretty cheap and pretty good. So if you're looking to downgrade either Solanke or Watkins to upgrade, for example, Alvarez to Haaland, you have one of the options there in Raul Jimenez, who's looking decent and had the second highest non-penalty expected goal involvement from Fulham. Next match is Newcastle against Manchester City, and this was a pretty interesting match as well. Newcastle took the lead after going down. They managed to turn the game around and lead 2-1 against Man City. And City just struggled to create chances, struggled to get close to goal. But then Kevin De Bruyne came on, and then Oscar Bob came on, and both of them basically turned their match around for City. Kevin De Bruyne basically just walked up to the box and shot it straight into the bottom corner. Easy as can be. He just looks amazing again, Kevin De Bruyne. And he also had the assist for Oscar Bob, who did brilliantly to take down the ball and get it around the goalkeeper and score the winning goal for Man City. So I think Bob is someone that's going to be a really cheap and really good option at some point in FPL. Probably not this season, probably next season, but I think he has a really bright future. And I think he's like the next in line to be that rotational, really good player when he plays, but really annoying player to have when he doesn't play, sort of player for City. But yeah, De Bruyne back. Haaland is now looking to be back soon as well, potentially. So yeah, it's pretty much over for the league. That's what most people are saying, at least. But they did struggle to beat Newcastle of this game, so yeah, they could have easily also ended up not getting all 3 points from this game, but Kevin De Bruyne was just taking matters into his own hands. But apart from De Bruyne, I think the one standout option for me is Kyle Walker. Like, I haven't been 100% sold on Kyle Walker. I don't think he has enough attacking potential. And I think also he could potentially get rested, as he's getting a lot of matches in a row for City now. But in this game, I think he was really impressive. And as you can see from the non-penalty expected goal involvement, 0.83 is a really high number, really good from Walker. And you can see it from the play as well. He got an assist for Bernardo for the opening goal for City. And he was also really close to assisting, I think it was Foden, later on in the game as well, where Foden had actually a really good chance to score, but it never managed to get the shot off. But he was in a really great position to score, and I think Foden still is a great option, even though he blanked in this game. So I would not be selling Foden if I had him. I do have him as well, and I'm looking to keep him for the foreseeable future. I think he's going to play most matches for City. Alvarez, on the other hand, I'm not quite as sure if he's going to start going forward. He also blanked once again, and also again didn't look like the best. He had a couple chances to score that he missed, but yeah, I think when Haaland is back, I think Alvarez is the one to drop out, with De Bruyne back and Haaland back and all those guys. So I think Alvarez to Haaland is something that I would look into doing at some point when Haaland is injury-free, basically. When it comes to Newcastle, Alexander Isak is back in really, really good form, and he has been scoring a lot of goals lately. He has 3 goal returns in a row in the 3 last starts that he's had, with Callum Wilson out with an injury. And Callum Wilson is also sort of in transfer rumors out now for Newcastle, so especially if he gets sold and they don't bring in another striker, I don't think they would do that. I think they would buy a striker if they sell Wilson, but if Wilson is sold, I think Isak could be a really, really nice option going forward. So yeah, he's just been scoring a lot lately, and he is a fantastic player, so it makes sense that he scores a really well-taken goal. And that was the only thing with Walker. He was impressive going forward. FPL-wise, he was good, but they did concede 2 goals against Man City, and also both goals were kind of Kyle Walker's fault. He could have closed down Isak and could have closed down Gordon as well. But Gordon should also be mentioned. Scored in another home game for Newcastle, so he's another option that if you still have him, I would just keep him at this point. We don't really know when Harvey Barnes is going to be back ready, fit to play. just seems to be getting setbacks after setbacks in training. So I think Gordon is a really nice keep for now. I'm not sure if I would bring him in personally, but I think he's a really good keep at least, because they do get some really good fixtures pretty soon after the game against Aston Villa now next up for Newcastle. So yeah, some really good options from both teams, but Man City just look like the real deal now, and I think it's going to be tough to stop them for the rest of the season. Next up, we have Everton against Aston Villa, and this was kind of surprisingly a 0-0 game, but I probably shouldn't say surprisingly, because Everton have been pretty solid at the back this whole season. Aston Villa didn't really create too much. Matty Cash actually looked pretty good after he has failed a lot of teams in FPL. He looked back to his old self, like pretty attacking self in this game. Third best for non-penalty expected goal moment for Aston Villa. Watkins is second on that list, but I don't think Watkins really had like the biggest of chances in that game. Duran had a pretty good chance, but Watkins has been sort of diminishing returns lately. A lot of people are potentially looking to sell him. I'm not quite sure. They're facing Newcastle at home next game, and I think that is still a sneakily decent game. I think Newcastle are still struggling defensively. Watkins had a fantastic big haul against Newcastle last season as well. And judging from the first game of the season between Aston Villa and Newcastle as well, even though Aston Villa lost 5-1, they easily could have scored a lot more goals in that match. So I think Watkins is actually still a pretty good keep, especially for this game week. So he hasn't been good lately, but he's also been pretty consistent the last calendar year, basically. So I still think he's a decent option, but he didn't really show much in this game against Everton. And the same can be said for Calvert-Lewin, who just keeps getting big chances and keeps missing them. He has actually more expected goals than Richarlison, who I'm going to talk about pretty soon now when I talk about Man United and Spurs. He has more expected goals than Richarlison since Richarlison started scoring a couple game weeks back, but he has 0 goals, I think, still, Calvert-Lewin, whereas Richarlison has 5. So yeah, that should tell you something about the struggles for Calvert-Lewin compared to his former teammate, who's now at Spurs. But yeah, feed DCL and he will miss, because he had a mega chance to score. But again, Martinez, harking back to the days of the World Cup final, came out, made himself big, and saved a potential game-winning goal for Everton in that match. But in general, Everton, and it should also be noted, they had a goal disallowed for offside. It was a pretty clear offside, but it was also Doucouré could have kept his run a little bit more, and he would have been through on goal, and he actually scored, because he is actually pretty clinical compared to Calvert-Lewin. I still think Doucouré is a pretty decent, like, 5th midfielder or 4th midfielder option still as well. He's just really attacking, and yeah, it's like the main source of goals for Everton, who have like decent matches here and there and tough matches here and there. They don't really have like bad runs. They don't really have like good runs of fixtures, but yeah, I think Doucouré is someone that you could look into. Also, obviously, Everton's defense, Branthwaite was on a lot of people's benches, I think, this game week, including mine. And he just kept the clean sheet once again against Aston Villa, who are one of the better offensive teams in the league. So, yeah, that should be noted. Pickford as well has been one of the best goalkeepers this season, after a lot of people had him at the start and he sucked, and then they sold him, and then he's been awesome since. And that's pretty much the story of the season for Everton as well. Like, they've been pretty damn good since the point deduction, especially. They've been really good. So, yeah, 0-0 in this game, no goals, and Aston Villa had a goal disallowed as well. It should also be noted, VAR took entirely too long to call it off, because it was a clear offside on Bailey, who passed it back to Moreno, who scored. Also tells you something about Moreno and his potential attacking threat if he keeps playing. That's the thing. Lucas Digne, or Luca Digne, or however you call his name, he's going to be back from injury now, and it's going to make it a rotational pair, I think, on the left back position for Aston Villa. I don't think either of them will play pretty much every match, so I think that's going to dampen the appeal of Moreno, but he showed a little bit of what he can do from that goal. But like I said, should have been disallowed way earlier. They checked the offside for Bailey, found out it was offside, and then for some reason they continued the attack and checked another potential offside with the Langley blocking the goal blocking the side of the ball for the goalkeeper, apparently. But yeah, the offside on Bailey was clear, and they should have just made that decision straight away without going through the rest of the goal. But yeah, again, I just have to complain about VAR, because I'm not a fan, if you couldn't tell already. Man United against Spurs, 2-2 game, pretty interesting game in general. Man United took the lead pretty early. Rasmus Højlund is looking better and better. Fantastic finish to give Man United the lead. But then Pedro Porro, again, provided the goods for anyone that has him still in FPL. And he was pretty much like the main guy for Spurs this game because of his corners, because he's just been fantastic with his set piece delivery, Pedro Porro. And I wonder now with Maddison coming back, Maddison is usually the one to take most of the free kicks and set pieces, corners and stuff for Spurs. I wonder if Pedro Porro gets to keep at least a couple corners, because I think he's just been fantastic as a corner taker for Spurs ever since Maddison went out. So it depends, remains to be seen what happens there. It will be really telling with the FA Cup game between Tottenham and Man City to see if Maddison is back in that game and see if he takes set pieces away from Porro. Because I think if Porro loses set pieces, he loses most of his value as well. Because most of the value from this game, most of the chances created, most of the assist came from the corner as well. He had another really close assist on a corner for Romero, who headed it onto the bar. I think if Porro loses corners and set pieces, he's not going to be that good of an option. He's still going to be a pretty good option because he's still pretty attacking fullback, but he's also getting quite pricey now. So if you didn't buy him at a cheap price, if you bought him at like a higher price and he loses set pieces, I think his returns could be diminishing. But Spurs also have Van de Ven back and Romero back in defense as well. Helped them against Man United, even though they conceded 2 goals. Udogie as well basically pocketed Garnacho for the entire match. For someone like me who just bought in Garnacho, pretty disappointed to see Udogie and Van de Ven basically have their way with Garnacho. But Garnacho really should have had an assist as well towards the end of the match, where he crossed it to McTominay, who was completely free in the box, had a free header, but just headed it over. Really bad technique there from McTominay. But Højlund scored a really nice goal. Rashford scored a pretty good goal as well, with Højlund assist as well for Man United. That was in between those 2 Man United goals. In between that, we had the Pedro Porro cross to Richarlison, who headed it home. Richarlison's been really good lately as well. And then Ben Tucker gave Spurs a 2-2 right at the start of the second half as well. So yeah, pretty interesting game. 2-2 was also an interesting result. Man United managed to get a point from this game, which is pretty good for them. Spurs, they do have some nice options, but you also have to consider the fact that they are blanking now in GW26 with Chelsea going through in the cup. And yeah, the time to buy Spurs players, I think, has passed. But if you still have Richarlison, if you still have Pedro Porro, I think you can keep Richarlison, especially. But Porro is someone that you could potentially look to sell to get Trent Alexander-Arnold eventually for the double game week, depending on if he keeps corners or not. If Porro is still on corners with Maddison back, I still think he's a fantastic option, and especially if you bought him for a pretty cheap price. He started at 5.0 and now he's 5.9, I think, or 5.8. If you bought him at a really cheap price, obviously you just keep him, even if he loses corners, I think. But he is a candidate to sell to get Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's most likely going to be back now for Liverpool for the next game week. But for now, with corners and the fantastic delivery from corners from Porro as well, he's still a fantastic option. Gets bonus points even though he concedes twice and only has an assist. And that tells you something about the bonus potential with Porro when he has set pieces, especially. Arsenal against Crystal Palace, and this is sort of what we've been expecting from Arsenal this season. It hasn't been the best season for Arsenal, especially offensively, but this game, they finally had everything go right for them. 2 beautiful goals, especially for me, as someone that has had a lot of faith in Gabriel Magalhaes. 2 goals from set pieces from him, or 1 goal and 1 assist, technically, because he did header it onto the goalkeeper and into the back of the net, which deleted the assist for Saka, who ended up blanking in this game, despite a 5-0 result for Arsenal. So I get a lot of people getting upset with Saka, and I think you could look into selling him potentially, but yeah, you don't have to. And they do play Nottingham Forest next game, and Nottingham Forest, as we'll get to talk about pretty soon, conceded a lot of goals and scored a lot of goals, to be fair, as well, lately. So I still think Saka is good for 1 more game week at least to watch, and then he plays Liverpool, and then you could potentially sell him if you are pretty unhappy with him. But yeah, Saka no returns, but Gabriel scoring 2 goals. Gabriel Martinelli as well coming on and scoring 2 goals as a sub. 2 really nice counter-attack goals, and Trossard also chipped in with a goal himself and gave Arsenal a resounding 5-0 win against Crystal Palace. Palace without Olise and Eze at the same time. I've just struggled this whole season. Olise was injured at the start of the season, then he came back and Eze was injured. Then they played a little bit together and they looked really good. And then now Olise has been injured again. So I think once Michael Olise is back, I think Palace will look really good. But now they have not looked that good. And 5-0 loss to Arsenal. A lot of supporters had banners and stuff protesting their owners. They're also not that happy with Roy Hodgson. Palace are just kind of sinking ship at this point, especially with Olise out, but it remains to be seen if Olise is back for the next game. If he's back against Sheffield United, I think that could be a really nice differential for you to get either Eze or Olise, most likely Olise, because I think he's been the better player this season, and he's also most likely on pens. But yeah, Palace, the pressure is mounting on them, and Arsenal, maybe this will be the result to unlock them going forward to be that really good attacking side that we saw last season that has been missing. But both Ødegaard and Saka didn't really do much in this game. So that's a bit of a concern for people that have them still in FPL. Because, yeah, a 5-0 win and no returns is just doesn't feel good as if you have a player from that game that did that. But yeah, really good game for Arsenal, not so good game for Crystal Palace. And it's pretty much what we expect at this point, with Arsenal trying to contend for the title and Crystal Palace just struggling a bit without Olise and Eze. Then we have Brentford against Nottingham Forest. Ivan Toney being back was the main story of this game, and obviously he had to score. He said he was going to score, and he did as well from a free kick. Pretty cheeky from Toney, moving the ball. The ball was already pretty badly placed from the goalkeeper, Matt Turner, who's just been having stinkers night after night for Nottingham Forest. But Toney, to get even more of an advantage and be able to get it past the wall, put the ball slightly more to the right than what it was supposed to be, and just had a really low hard shot for Brentford into the bottom corner, and he scored on his way back. That was his only goal, but he did play a really good game in general. Played all 90 minutes, I think, as well. Looked really good and helped Brentford gain 3 points, which is really good for them. But this was also a really fun game as well, with really good goals, especially Nottingham Forest with the opening goal from Danilo. Really well taken goal, takes it down on his leg, really deft touch, and then a really nice volley goal as well for Danilo. Chris Wood also scored a really nice goal from a cross, and this means that he has returned in 3 out of the last 4 matches, including 2 double-digit hauls in that time. And Forest now, under Nuno Espirito Santo, who was kind of a defensive manager at Spurs at times, and at times for Wolves as well, has just been really attacking and offensive-minded for Nottingham Forest. I think they've had about 4.25 goals per game the last 4 games now after Nuno Espirito Santo took over. So I think Forest is a team that you could really target, whether you're playing against them or if you have someone like Wood, who's looking pretty good for the price of like 5.0 or something. So I think Wood is someone that I would definitely consider. It depends also what happens with them in the cup. They're still through in the FA Cup, so they might still blank in GW29. But if they go out now in the next round against Bristol City, I think, or if they get a really tough draw in the next round and they look likely to go out and play in GW29, I think Wood could be a really nice option for you to have both in Game Week 26 in that mini blank, and then in Game Week 29 when there's like a big blank game week for most people. So Chris Wood is definitely someone you should pay attention to, because he's playing every game now. Avoni is still out for a long while. It seems like Wood is now finally going to be made the starting striker for Nottingham Forest. None of this experimenting with different players up front. Elanga, for example, I think Wood has just been amazing lately, so he's a really good option. Toney in his own right is also a really good option, but I think this was the game to bring it in for. At home to Nottingham Forest, 3 goals scored. Anyone that captained him, brought him in and captained him, probably feels a bit hard done by, even though he did score a goal. But yeah, Toney is back, looking really good, and he's going to help Brentford massively as well and help them get a 3-2 win in this game. So yeah, really nice game for Brentford and Ivan Toney to be back from his suspension. Next up, we have Sheffield United against my favorite team, West Ham, and this was a pretty controversial game by the end of the match. At least a lot of things happened in injury time. But before that, West Ham took the lead. A shot from Danny Ings, who was really good in this game. He played as like not a number 9. He was more like a second striker of sorts for West Ham, and he really excelled in his role and was basically the man of the match for West Ham. He had a shot that was hit the defender, and then he went over to Cornet on the left-hand side, and Cornet, in typical Cornet, at least Burnley days fashion, scored a really nice volley goal. That was pretty much the only good thing Cornet did in this match, though, which is sort of the sad part, because Cornet has so much to offer, but he just hasn't made it work for West Ham. Injuries has played a lot of the damage there for him and his West Ham career. And he's just been a bit sloppy as well when he's gotten the chance. But really well taken goal, gave West Ham the lead. But then right before half, Sheffield United strike back with their new signing, Ben Brereton Diaz, who really showed his poacher's instincts when the ball was rebounded off of Areola, and he was quicker to react than James Ward-Prowse. and managed to bang the ball into the goal for Sheffield United. But then West Ham also took the lead again in the second half. Again, Danny Ings winning a penalty this time, and a lot of people were questioning who's going to take the penalty, with Benrahma not playing, with Paqueta not playing. But Bowen did not step up. A lot of people who kept Bowen for this game week were hoping that he would step up potentially. But instead it was James Ward-Prowse who stepped up to take the penalty, and he scored it just straight down the middle, gave West Ham the lead. And then injury time happened where there was so many controversial decisions. First, Ryan Brewster with a terrible tackle on, I can't remember who it was, Emerson I think. Should have been a straight red. The ref gave it a yellow card. Vladimir Sofal basically protested the yellow card and said it should have been a red card instead of a yellow. Then they checked the incident on VAR. They decided that it should be a red, and they gave a red card to Brewster. And then for some reason, after Sufal said that should be a red, and he was correct in saying that, he gets a yellow card after they decided to give the red card for Sheffield United. And that was the first yellow card of 2 yellow cards for Sufal, who was after that sent off for a challenge, which was also kind of like, usually what you get a yellow card for your first yellow card, but probably something that you don't get a second yellow card for. So pretty hard done by there for Sufal as well. And then Sheffield United gets the penalty. They cross the ball into the box. Oriola comes in to punch the ball, misses the ball, and sort of crashes into the Sheffield United striker, McBurney. McBurney also elbows in the face in the process, but for some reason, even though the ball goes past them and McBurney didn't have a chance to reach it, the referee decides that it's a penalty. He probably had the Onana incident, the game week 1 in mind, and thought this is the goalkeeper crashing into an attacking player, so I have to blow the whistle and give a penalty. VAR checked it, said it was okay, go ahead, take the penalty, and McBurney scored the penalty himself for Sheffield United to give them a 2-2 draw, which is going to be really good for them. West Ham as well probably should have had a penalty towards the end of the match, in my biased view. Cross in for Jared Bowen, and Anil Ahmedhodzic basically just holds both arms around Bowen as they both go to ground, and the referee just blows a whistle and says free kick to Sheffield United instead, because the ball hit Bowen's hand when he was on his way down. Probably should have been a penalty for West Ham, or James Ward-Prowse could have stepped up and taken another penalty and scored another goal. Would have given Bowen an assist as well for anyone that kept him. But it just wasn't meant to be, and it ended up being 2-2 for West Ham, who are now struggling a bit without Paqueta and especially Kudus as well, who's gone to AFCON, but now Ghana are out already, so he's going to be back most likely now for next game week for West Ham, which is going to be interesting. And they played that match against Bournemouth as well at home, and Bournemouth is another interesting team to talk about because that's the next game against Liverpool. Bournemouth-Liverpool, I expected this to be a pretty tight game. I thought Liverpool without Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold playing against a pretty informed Bournemouth away at Bournemouth's home ground. I thought that would be a tough game for Liverpool, and in the first half it looked like a tough game. Liverpool couldn't really break down Bournemouth. Bournemouth had a couple decent chances toward the end of the half as well. But then in the second half, Liverpool just completely took over, and Diogo Jota showed how lethal he can be and gave a lot of points to anyone that brought him in this game week. I think Jota is a pretty big missed opportunity for me, because I was talking early in the preparation for Game 21, Jota was someone that really stood out to me as a really good option. But as the week moved along, I felt like I needed more money, because I needed more money in the bank for Haaland. That made me go for the cheaper move of I actually sold Bowen and got Garnacho, when Jota is probably the one I should have brought in. But that's basically to have the flexibility to bring in Haaland for next game week, which I needed. So yeah, I don't really regret it that much, but seeing Jota score 2 goals, had an assist as well, and just look lethal when he gets to play up front for Liverpool, that's not unexpected. That's part of the reason why I was so interested in him in the first place, because I figured if he plays 3 or 4 games in a row for Liverpool, he's going to haul massively in at least one of those games. And that's what they did already against Bournemouth. So he's still on my radar, especially if I sell Salah. That's going to be another question entirely. Salah got injured in the second game in AFCON and is now leaving AFCON to go back to Liverpool to rehabilitate with Liverpool. And then if Egypt go far enough in AFCON, where Salah is back from injury, he might return again to AFCON and play the semi-final and the final, potentially. It's looking a bit easier now for Egypt. They had kind of a tough time. They didn't even win a single game in the group stage, but they still managed to go through as the second place team. And that brings them up in a pretty nice section of the knockout stage in African Cup of Nations as well. They'll face the runner-up in Group F, which is going to be either Zambia or DR Congo, or potentially Tanzania, I think, which is the final team in that group. Or it could potentially be Morocco if Morocco all of a sudden lose in their final game against, what is it? I can't remember. Against Zambia, I think. But yeah, most likely it's going to be a pretty easy match there, either Zambia or Congo, even though Congo have a couple good players. Anything can happen in AFCON as well, as we've seen. The Ivory Coast losing, with Ghana crashing out, Algeria now crashing out as well. A lot of interesting results in AFCON in general, but I think Egypt's path to the semi-final is looking pretty good at this moment. So I think Salah potentially could be out for that reason. If not for that reason, if Egypt still get knocked out, he still might be out for Game Week 24 and potentially the first game of Game Week 25 as well, because the latest news is the fact that he's going to be out for between 21 to 28 days, most likely. And that would put him around the Game Week 25 deadline if it is the full 28 days. I think personally that's a bit of PR from Liverpool, the fact that they said that the injury was worse than originally feared. I think it's mostly down to the backlash from the news that he was going to return to Liverpool in general. He's not the most popular man in Egypt right now, Salah. A lot of people feel like he's letting his country down. So I think it's sort of a little bit of a PR move to say that he's out for longer than expected, because that way they can surprise people and say that, oh, he's back earlier than expected. If Egypt indeed go through. But yeah, if I would venture a guess, if Egypt go out in either the round of 16 or the quarterfinals, I'd still think Salah would be back for Game 24 against Burnley at home, and that is that really tasty fixture where I would really want to have Salah, especially if he's back for that game, if he's fully fit to play that game. He's going to be the best captain's option that week, but it's going to be a risky play if you want to keep Salah or not. So I think for me, I'm going to watch and see, because the round of 16 game is still 2 days before the FPL deadline for Game 22. So I'm still going to wait and see if Egypt go through. If they go through in that game and face either Equatorial Guinea or Guinea in the quarterfinals, I think that will be a pretty good chance for Egypt to go through to the semifinals. And at that point, Salah would be out for Game 24 and pretty much not be as interesting of an option, seeing as he has a double Game 25, which would be really nice to have him in as well for potentially triple captaincy chip as well. But then he blanks in Game 26, he blanks in Game 29 most likely, and they have a tough fixture into 28, I think, against City as well. So you could sell Salah or go without Salah if you don't have him already. But for me, it's pretty hard for me to sell him, because I did have him from Game Week 1 until now. I started with him at 12.5, now he's 13.1 in terms of value, but yeah, the recent news with his injury and also Egypt potentially going through an AFCON means that he's probably going to go down quite a bit more in price as well. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Salah in general this game week. But yeah, that's beside the point. Liverpool still looked terrific without Salah and Trent. Darwin as well scored a really nice goal. Got 11 points. Darwin had an assist as well for Jota. So yeah, Darwin and Jota really provided the goods for anyone that has either of them, but especially if you had both of them. Hats off to you, because that was amazing. I did not expect that to happen for Liverpool, but it just shows you the value of Liverpool. Without their best players available, they still managed to win 4-0 against a red-hot, in-form Bournemouth team. So yeah, really impressive from Liverpool, who are also going to be title contenders this season with Arsenal and potentially, Man City and potentially Arsenal is what I was supposed to say. Yeah, kind of back down to earth for Bournemouth. Solanke again didn't look too good in this game. He looked pretty good against Spurs in terms of matches or in terms of chances, but he just didn't manage to convert. Now against Liverpool, he sort of didn't manage to get those chances either. So it might be time to sell him, but at the same time, we know Bournemouth are going to have a double game week at some point in that game that was postponed against Luton. And they also have pretty decent fixtures both in the immediate future and also in game week 27 and 28 and potentially 29 as well if they don't blank in that game week, which I don't think they will. I can't quite remember if they're out or not in terms of game week 29. But yeah, I still think Solanke is really hard to sell, but I think you could make a case for it, especially me. I'm eyeing up doing in game week 24, like I mentioned, where Liverpool have Burnley at home. I might do Solanke to Darwin and potentially captain Darwin in that game if Salah is not ready to play that game. And then play him for the double game week in 25 and then sell him back for Solanke in game week 26 again. That is something I'm looking into potentially doing. But I think Jota is also another really interesting shout. Potentially could sell Salah to buy Jota. I just don't like the fact of selling Salah if I feel like he's going to be back for game 24. But again, that's something that I'm going to have to look into in the future. But yeah, Liverpool looking fantastic without their best players, and especially with Salah back as well. They're going to be a really good team. And I just don't want to go without Salah in that double game week in 25 because I really want to triple captain him potentially in that game week as well. But especially now a lot of people are selling him. Imagine triple captaining Salah when most people don't even have him, much less captaining him or starting him. That would be amazing. Be really fun, like inflection point of the season as well. If we get that double game week for both Salah and Haaland against pretty easy opposition, the triple captaincy chip would actually be really in play because you wouldn't captain the player that is highly triple captain, because that's usually what happens with the triple captaincy chip. If you don't triple captain the player you have, then you captain them and you get most of his points anyway. But in this instance, you could have Salah's triple captain in a really good double game week, and a lot of people not having Salah, which is really enticing to me. But yeah, Salah is going to be tough to sell, but we'll see what happens with him. Final game of the whole game week is Brighton against Wolverhampton, and this ended 0-0, which was kind of surprising. Brighton didn't keep a clean sheet for the longest of times in Premier League, but I think they've been quite unlucky with not keeping clean sheets in general. But now they've adopted kind of a different system. Estupiñán is playing a different role now. He's playing as a left centre back. He's still venturing forward and getting some potential attacking returns. And he's also taking set pieces now for Brighton, which is really interesting, I think, with Gross on the pitch as well. So that means that Estupiñán will still be able to take them even when everyone's fully fit and healthy, because Gross is usually the one who takes the set pieces for Brighton. But this leaves Estupiñán as a bonus potential monster because he has a lot of good passes. He has a lot of crosses from the corners. He even goes up and gets crosses in from open play as well, which is really good for bonus. He's going to lose the ball less than he would playing as like a left wing back that he usually has been. Obviously, the goal potential is going to go down, but as we saw from this game, the bonus potential skyrockets, and he managed to get 8 points even though he was subbed off early in like the 74th minute. He got a clean sheet, got the bonus points, and he just looks terrific, Estupiñán, I think. So I think he's still a really good player to have, but you should also take into consideration the fact that he's playing sort of a more defensive role than usual. So a better clean sheet and bonus potential and less attacking potential in terms of goals and assists, I think, for Estupiñán, but he's a fantastic option nonetheless. If you can't quite afford Estupiñán, I think Van Heck is also a really good option. He's also actually doing some attacking work as well. As you can see, he's third for non-penalty expected goal moment for Brighton. He gets up for set pieces and has looked close to scoring a couple times. He's also only 4.0, really cheap price. I think he's a really nice player to get for that blank game week 26, for example, when they have a really easy game in that game week as well. So I think Van Heck is also a really nice player to have. João Pedro was a really popular player before this game week, and he didn't really do much. He had a decent chance to score, but didn't manage to score, obviously, as the match ended 0-0. But yeah, a really good match from Brighton in general, especially defensively, I think. And I think they could have won the match as well. Wolves in their own right had a pretty good chance. Matheus Cunha, who's been a pretty good player this season in general. He's been a pretty underrated prospect, I think, in FPL, and he could be someone you could bring in, like I mentioned earlier in the video, for cheap in attack if you need a cheap striker. He's pretty good. But the big story for Wolves was Pedro Neto being back and looking really good and creating a good chance for Cunha, like I mentioned, getting decently close to scoring himself. I think Neto just looked amazing. And yeah, just wanted to highlight Estupiñán and Neto, two of my favorite players in FPL, or two of my favorite players in Premier League, I should say. FPL, not so much for Neto, especially, who's been letting me down a bit lately. But Wolves, especially from game 26 onwards, have really good fixtures. So I think Cunha as a striker replacement for Darwin, for example, or Hwang Hee-chan, who's going to be back at this point, or Neto for that matter, as a midfielder replacement for Jota, seems like a really nice way out of that, unless you want to bring in a Spurs midfielder as well, potentially, in that game week. So I think that's something you should keep in mind. But Estupiñán, a really good standout for Brighton. Gross hasn't really looked that impressive for me. I don't know. I wasn't quite sold on Gross as much as most people. He blanked again, but he does have some set pieces, as we now know, with Estupiñán taking most of the others. And he's also on penalties when João Pedro is not on the pitch. But it seems like João Pedro is going to play mostly going forward. What happened to Evan Ferguson, by the way? He's not playing at all, basically, even though they have so many injuries. Now Ansu Fati is on his way back. Karim Mitoma is going to be back at some point. Adingra, who's now, I think, might go out of AFCON, but it might still be in AFCON with Ivory Coast after they lost 4-0 to Equatorial Guinea. He's also back, was playing in the final game in AFCON for Ivory Coast. So Brighton are getting a lot of players back, which is something you should keep in mind when it comes to rotation with João Pedro and those guys. So yeah. But I think Brighton in general, especially defensively, are looking a lot better lately. And there is a case to be made for a double up with Estepinian and Van Heck as well, at least for a short time for me. That's something that I'm looking into. But yeah, that is pretty much the FPL eye test for this week, or Game Week 21. I'm going to try to do this more commonly as well. I've sort of been fallen off a bit with the FPL eye test because there's been a lot of weird game weeks. We had several weeks in December where there were just game week after game week after game week. We had basically 3 game weeks per week, pretty much at that point. It's hard to do reaction videos when there's such a short turnaround between the deadlines. And now in January, it's been the complete opposite with like a huge gap between the game weeks. So again, it was kind of tough to do this video, to be honest, because the games were so spread out over the course of 2 weeks. But yeah, I just figured I should just take like note of the teams and looking back at what they did this past game week, because I think you can learn a lot from it in the future. So in general this week, like I mentioned earlier, I think Walker offensively really impressed me. Estepinian defensively really impressed me. Liverpool in general just looked fantastic. Darwin Núñez and Jota, 2 really good options going forward. Not sure about Salah going forward. It seems like Trent is going to be back. And also Spurs as well. DePoro still providing the goods with the assist if he's still on corners. I think that's something to watch as well for the FA Cup match for them. We're going to get so much more information for the next game week in the next few days with the League Cup final tie between Liverpool and Fulham as well, to just confirm that double game week for Liverpool in game week 25 and the blank game week in game week 26 for both Liverpool, Luton, and also now Spurs and Chelsea, if that's not already announced by the time you're watching this video. So I think that's some of the things to note in this video as well. And also Kudus being back for West Ham could be a really nice option. They play Bournemouth at home next game. Could be a decent differential option in midfield if you want to go with someone a bit different in midfield there. By the way, that has been the FPL eye test for this past game week, Game Week 21. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.